who has access to it.
Of course, Trayvon Martin's family not happy about this. Their attorney says Zimmerman misled the court and his bond should be revoked.
We are emphatically saying that his silence was an indication of untruth. When he heard the testimony that he had no money, that he had no money raised in this website, he knew. Whether he communicated that to his attorney, whether his attorney solicited that information from him or not, he knew what the crux of the matter was at that bond hearing. And he, like his apology, was insincere in his silence as well as what he said to the court.
Let me bring in my guests tonight, Brian Claypool and Kirby Clemens. Both are criminal defense attorneys. Great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Let's start here now. All right, so George Zimmerman's brother is in charge, I guess, of this website. And I guess his brother is the only one who knew there was $200,000 in that account last week. Are you buying it, Brian?
Are you kidding me? The breaking news out here is that the Barnum and Bailey Circus is going to cancel their act in Central Florida this summer because you got a circus going on now in Florida. I mean, that's ridiculous. This family pleaded indigence, and everybody, you heard the parents on under oath. Oh, I don't know how much money's on there, but I know who does know how much money's in there. Why wasn't the brother or brother-in-law subpoenaed into court to talk about how much money is in that PayPal account? That's flat out ridiculous.
Kirby, what's your reaction to what happened? I mean, the brother is in charge of it, right? George Zimmerman's locked up. I don't know how much communication they're having back and forth. I guess from this, the brother is not telling his father or his sister-in-law, his brother's wife, or his brother that, hey, we got $200,000 in this PayPal account.
And you know, it actually sounds rather plausible. It just sounds to me like the wrong person was called. Everyone kind of said, I don't know. The one person that did know, no one called as a witness. And that seems to be, the ball was dropped by, in that case, the prosecution. They should have called him. But I don't think the defense had to tell him.
But the defense was the one that called all the witnesses at the hearing.
No, I appreciate that the defense was the one that called those witnesses. But what I'm saying is that in the context of that particular question, those people didn't know. Now, the defense the defense counsel has represented he didn't know how much money was in there. But that again is not an untrue statement. This is one of those situations where it really seems that the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. Maybe they didn't talk to the witnesses. Perhaps George Zimmerman knew himself. We don't know that he knew. But
right. He was on the stand, and prosecutors could have asked him about this. Hey, Brian, here's my question. Is this something that... Because a criminal defense attorney, and you know, I love you guys. We keep the whole system going. I understand all that. But sometimes you don't want to know certain things. Do you think this is a case? Because Mark O'Mara strikes me as a very ethical kind of guy. But still, I mean, would he not explore, or should he have explored? There was money, or he has no obligation to do that, and he just kind of asked dad and wife, and that's it? And not worry about how much money's in there at the time of the bond hearing?
Well, he probably didn't want to know how much money was in the account at the time of the bond hearing. I mean, look how it unfolded. He said, well, we were closing down these accounts, and gee whiz, George then came up to me and told me, hey, there's $204,000 in the account. I mean, to a certain extent, you have to rely on your client to tell you the truth, but when your client isn't telling you the truth, you need to divulge that, and I think really who's dropping the ball here is the judge. He needs to take the bull by the horns. He needs to set a new hearing. He needs to have a subpoena issued to the brother, the custodian of this account, and I think this needs to go deeper than that. I think there needs to be a full-fledged investigation as to potential perjury charges. I don't believe that every single family member knew nothing about all this money that was in that account. So I think this needs to be expanded to see if there's potential perjury involved here.
So, Kirby, what does the judge do? I mean, from my read of this judge is I think he's not going to do that. But what impact do you think this ultimately has? Could this be a case where the bond is revoked? I don't think that's likely, but perhaps increased. And what does this do to the credibility of the defense in front of this judge?
Well, I think it does hurt the credibility of the defense to some degree, but the counsel is doing well because he's already come forward and divulged his information. As to revoking the bond is not punishment. It's about determining whether the person is going to be, flee and is going to intimidate witnesses. So the fact that the bond was set lower based upon one prong, which is his ability to make it, it seems that was a question in Florida. I don't think a judge is going to revoke bond on that. He could increase it, but really, what's he doing it for? You've got more money, so we want to take it. That hardly seems to be consistent with the established guidelines for what bond is all about.
And who gets the money? Brian, who gets the money here? Is it going to end up being Mark O'Mara's money?
Well, yeah, I mean, Mark O'Mara, I think he talked on a show last night that he thinks that, he could bill, in this case, well over $1 million, which is probably true, so he's going to need that money. But, Vinny, one more thing I wanted to note was one of the family members, I think it was a brother, he was on almost every single show there was talking about how, I think it was on every show except maybe iCarly or Dancing with the Stars, talking about what a great guy George Zimmerman is, how broke this family is, and where was he at this alleged Arthur hearing last Friday? It was more like a political fundraiser for George Zimmerman. Where was he? He was conveniently nowhere to be found. I mean, I think this is much deeper than people are talking about.
Brian and Kirby, thank you both so much. The mystery surrounding the disappearance of baby Gabriel. 2 years since he vanished. Tammy Smith now on trial for illegally trying to adopt the boy. Could her case shed some light on what really happened to this child? Keep right here on HLN Special Report.
Where is baby Gabriel?
The 8-month-old was last seen at a Texas motel back in 2009.
I don't exist anymore. I'm a ghost.
The boy's mother, 23-year-old Elizabeth Johnson, picks up everything and takes her baby on a 2-day journey, traveling from Arizona to San Antonio, Texas.
She told me on the phone, "You're never going to see Gabriel again."
Where are you? Where's Gabriel?
Do you want to talk to girl? What's the first day?
And here we are 2 years later, still no sign of baby Gabriel. His mom has told lie after lie, everything but the truth. But there's one woman who may actually know what happened, who may know where he is. Tammy Smith, failed country singer. She's on trial now, accused of forging documents to try and adopt baby Gabriel for herself. The prosecution trying to paint a picture of a woman obsessed with babies, so obsessed that she'd stop at nothing to get one, even propositioning pregnant strangers at fast food restaurants.
I had said hi to her when she was in line at Jack in the Box.
Okay, and so were you in line as well?
I had already ordered. There was a comment made about me being pregnant, and then she had mentioned that she was trying to adopt, and then I had mentioned that, well, I was thinking of giving my baby up for adoption.
And what happened after you said that?
We talked for about a minute or two, and then we exchanged phone numbers.
Did you just hear that? Tammy Smith online at Jack in the Box sees a pregnant young woman. All of a sudden, she's talking about adopting the child. I mean, am I the only one who thinks this is insane? Join me from outside the courthouse in Phoenix, Arizona, in-session correspondent Beth Karras from our sister network, True TV, and back with us, Brian Claypool. All right, Beth, how is this playing inside the courtroom? I mean, from my perspective, and I don't know. I mean, when I hear this stuff, I'm like, my goodness, this isn't reality. This really happened. Is it having the same impact in the courtroom that, hey, this woman is doing something that's a little bit different than, anyone else would do in trying to find a child?
Well, the only way I can judge the 10 jurors are when they take notes or when they ask questions, which they have the option to do at the end of a witness's examination here in Arizona. And they've only done it a few times. And one juror did ask one question after Rachel Hoover's testimony ended. Just wanted to know if she had given Tammy Smith the name of the adoption agency she ultimately used, and she had. But jurors took a lot of notes during her testimony. They were definitely engaged in listening. I'm sure they've been listening throughout, but they've been trying to probably put together a case that it's a little hard to follow, but this is not an easy case to present for a prosecutor because you can't put it in a linear way. You can't tell Tammy Smith's story without telling Elizabeth Johnson's story and Logan McCreary's. So that's how the prosecution started And now, through this witness, Rachel Hoover, as well as the former good friend of Tammy Smith, Tian Ayala, who testified the day before, jurors have a better picture of Tammy Smith's role here and whether or not she really did act in a criminal way. And they are definitely putting on evidence of it, assuming the jurors believe it.
Now, Brian, I want you to take a listen to this other piece of testimony from the same witness here, because she's pregnant, and apparently Tammy Smith is asking her to put her husband, not the pregnant woman's husband or boyfriend, but Tammy Smith's husband down as the father of the child that she's carrying. Take a listen.
There was a few ways that she had come up with that she could adopt the baby. One of them was that I could put Jack on the birth certificate, even though Jacob was right there. Put Jack on the birth certificate and say that he was the father so she could do a step-parent adoption.
And how did that make you feel when she suggested that?
Well, Jacob's the father, and I want my baby's dad on the birth certificate. It kind of, I was like, well, no.
I've been saying this throughout the whole trial. Brian, do I need to get out more and see the world because this is really happening out there? I can't. We're talking about a baby, a human life, and Tammy Smith, to me, sounds like someone that's absolutely lost touch with reality in her pursuit of a child.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, this looks like a bad episode of Jerry Springer. But, you know, the truth of the matter is, I think that she was trying to get her husband's name on these paternity papers because she wants complete control over a child that she eventually gets. I don't think she wants anything to do with an agreement for custody or even somebody agreeing to, you know, give her full rights to a child, because we all know that even these agreements can be attacked later on in a court. So I think she's a complete control freak. She'll stop at no end to get what she wants, and like you said, talking to complete strangers and trying to do this.
At Jack in the Box, you know, by the way. Let's not forget where this is taking place. It's not like this is someone she knew. She met her online at Jack in the Box, and within minutes, they're exchanging numbers talking about adopting babies. I mean...
well, that should...
Go ahead.
Yeah, that shows how powerful her... She must have a charming personality. I mean, to be able to engender a trust level that quickly with a complete stranger, to be talking about giving up a child, is mind-boggling. So she must be sincere when she's talking to these folks, and she
has an impact. She's got to wait. Beth Karras, because when you talk about the first time she met Elizabeth Johnson, baby Gabriel's mom, met her at the airport, right, during a layover, and she ends up holding the baby during the flight.
Right, and now we've heard from, well, we haven't heard, we know Elizabeth Johnson's story. That was in June of 2009. This is the fall of 2009 when she's standing online at Jack in the Box, because Elizabeth hadn't contacted her since that June meeting. But this is a woman who is not afraid to broach a very personal topic with complete strangers who are pregnant or, as in the case of Elizabeth, seem to be absolutely vulnerable, distraught, holding a baby as though she didn't want to have the baby on her lap.
Well, it's absolutely amazing. I'm looking forward. We're out of time, Brian. I'm sorry, but I'm looking forward to seeing her up on the witness stand, because if she can convince these people to perhaps give up their children, maybe she can convince the jury that what she did was just looking out for the best interests of baby Gabe. Beth and Brian, thanks. More Prime News.
Thanks.
Straight ahead. Special report.